But the unfortunate fact is the legislature has ignored the majority and instead chose to rush this incredibly divisive bill through a special session. And the question I would have you ask yourselves is, why the big rush? Let me go back and give you a little history in case you've forgotten. It was in 1990 that three same-sex couples applied for marriage licenses. In 1993, the Hawaii Supreme Court ruled in favor of those same-sex couples. In 1994, the legislature passed a law defining marriage as between a man and a woman. In 1996, Judge Kevin Chang ruled that that law was unconstitutional. In 1997, the legislature passed a constitutional amendment, unanimous in the Senate. The vote was 44-6 in the House. And then for about the next 18 months, there were town hall meetings, media campaigns by both sides, church meetings, talk on the golf course, at the farmer's market. Everyone had time to talk story. In 1998, then we, the voters, we voted in November with about 70% majority ratifying the constitutional amendment. So for 8 years, 1990 to 1998, we had an ongoing conversation about this obviously important issue that culminated in a constitutional amendment that left the decision on the definition of marriage up to the legislature, not the courts. Now let's fast forward to 2013. I am not saying that we should take 8 years to decide the definition of marriage in Hawaii. What I am saying is that we should at the very least not pass this measure today. Compare what happened in the 90s to what we just went through. First, unbeknownst to many in the public, is that the Judiciary and Labor Chair and I actually co-sponsored a Senate concurrent resolution, SCR 166, last session that passed in both chambers calling for a task force headed by the Dean of the UH Law School to study the economic, social, and religious impacts of legalizing same-sex marriage in Hawaii, with a deadline of reporting back to the legislature by November 1st. So the question is, what happened? What were the findings of the task force? Surely with an issue of this magnitude, an issue that was hotly debated in our state for 8 years, surely this would be important information to help us in our deliberations. The answer? The task force never met because the governor called a special session. Now, regardless of whether you're for or against same-sex marriage, the very least we could have done is to have taken the time to really study the potential impacts of legalizing same-sex marriage in Hawaii. Secondly, the legislature did not want a special session. As you well know, we needed 2/3 of the Senate and the House, and the votes weren't there in the House to call a special session. So our decision as a body was no special session. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the governor decreed there will be a special session. So we have two legislative decisions that we, the legislature, made, the task force and no special session, that are overridden by the governor. That's not democracy by any stretch of the imagination. That's not Pono by any stretch of the imagination. That's one of the main reasons why the traditional marriage supporters are so outraged by what's been going on for the last 2 weeks. That's why thousands, not hundreds as the Star Advertiser reported, that's why thousands showed up at the rally on opening day of the session. And that's why so many people gave up their precious family time and slogged down to the Capitol every day for the House hearing. We are dealing with the sacred institution of marriage that's been around for thousands of years, and we, the elected officials, their representatives, are saying, yes, let's have a 5-day special session and redefine marriage. This is crazy. There was no pressing reason why the governor needed to call us back into special session. The fact is, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it's up to the states to continue deciding this issue. And contrary to what's been said about same-sex marriage being a civil right, the fact is no court has ruled ever that marriage is a civil right. Another reason not to rush this bill through, why we need more time to deliberate and debate, is we've been hearing over and over again from the LGBT community and other proponents of SB1 that all they want is marriage equity or marriage equality. Now, maybe I missed it in all the testimony that was submitted, but I don't think we heard from the B in LGBT, the bisexual community. For example, if Jack, Frank, and Mary are in a loving relationship and we're all for marriage equality, then why aren't the three of them covered in SB1? Why can't they get married? If this is all about fairness, equity, and love, shouldn't there be a friendly amendment introduced today to include them? That's my point. In their haste to rush this bill through, the advocates seem to have forgotten about their bisexual brothers and sisters. Or will there be a challenge and lawsuit by bisexuals if SB1 passes into law with the claim that they are being discriminated against?